Good evening, everybody. With it being 6:30 on Tuesday, March 26, 2019, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order and ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice. First item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve our March 12th, 2019 minutes.
So moved. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes. Because we have a few guests with us as well, with us this evening, as well as show choir practice still going on, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to skip over the superintendent's report for now and jump to item 4, student update. Mariah Belletti. Good evening, Mariah.
Good evening. For academics, the seniors have the required 10 hours of community service that are due next Friday, so hopefully they have those done. Super team students were announced, so congratulations to all of them. The banquet will be in May. For show choir weekend for New Attitude went great. The groups had a lot of fun, and the big performance between all of them went really well. The Impression Show Choir group had a competition at Andover this past Saturday, and they received second place and a gold medal. And they have their last competition in 2 Saturdays from now at Waltham. For prom, the prom committee meetings have begun, and we have decided on a theme, which we decided to keep it a secret. So we call it the mystery prom for now. So we have multiple tickets, like different designs for tickets going out for the students, and those will be going on sale as soon as possible, and will be sold until April 22nd. And I have a short report today, so that's all I have.
Any questions or comments from the committee? So does Dr. Cushing know what the theme is, or is he unknown?
No, but he can know if he'd like.
Wow, that's a trusting principle, Dr. Cushing.
It's a good theme.
It's a good thing. So that was exciting. Second place, gold medal, best vocals I heard,
Yes, best vocals.
and best hit band ever.
In my heart, yes.
Yes.
But we
As
didn't
well
get
as
the award
ours.
for it. Fairfield got that, and they're from, I think, Ohio, I want to
The Russian judge, it was
something like
fixed.
that.
Thank you very much for your update.
Thank you.
Unless the members object, I am going to jump down to new business. Again, we do have some guests with us this evening. And take item A under new business, approval of out-of-state field trip request, DECA finalist to Orlando, Florida. We do have a field trip request form from Mrs. Haney, who is with us this evening. And I didn't know if Mrs. Gogan or Mrs. Haney wanted to present the request.
That sounds good. So I am here to request permission for one of my DECA members, Tyler Adolfo, to attend the national competition in Orlando, Florida. The dates of that competition are April 27th to May 2nd, and Peter Carney will be chaperoning that trip.
Any questions or comments from the members? As I think we've said, I know Mrs. Gogan has said it, and I believe I said it on behalf of the committee, we certainly congratulate Tyler and all the staff at Bartlett that helped him
Yes.
and wish him the best. Now, with regards to funding, et cetera, is that settled or is that still up in the air and this is contingent upon funding?
Well, we're working on it. Tyler has raised about $650 at this point.
Okay.
So he's pretty much in the clear. The first week in April, there's a big race at Thompson Speedway, and we have been asked to sell at the concession stands down there. So I have about 10 DECA students, juniors and seniors, who are all willing to help. I also have some parent volunteers. So fingers are crossed that we'll make a lot of money.
I'm shocked that you have connections at the Speedway to get these kind of things done.
I'm kind of surprised myself.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the field trip through the DECA Club to Florida on April 27th to May 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, again, good luck with the fundraising and hopefully at the competition.
Thank you very much. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item under new business is acceptance of donation from Gridiron.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Perangeli, did you? Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we have Mr. Edward Kunkel and Ms. Shannon Spitz from the Gridiron, if you can come up. They have donated, they are donating some work, or would like to donate some work done to the shed out back in the area of the practice field and some grass. Mr. Kunkel, if you would like to explain the work that the Gridiron would like to do.
Thank you, Ms. Pierangeli, and members of the school committee. I'm looking at your surroundings here, and it's a little bit different than the 22 years I spent down at Filmer. It's very nice digs, and you've done a fantastic job here. I'm here tonight representing the Gridiron Club. I'm not the chairperson any longer. Shannon Spitz is the chairperson, along with her husband, George, is the treasurer. I wrote this letter to Mr. Hurton. As a representative of the Bartlett High School Gridiron Club, I am requesting of the school committee to accept our gift of painting and doing some exterior work on the equipment shed located near the practice football field. We are also seeking approval of the school committee to purchase fertilizing and other materials to assist the growth of grass on the practice football field. Both of the aforementioned projects were voted unanimously by the Gridiron Committee to fund these badly needed projects. All costs related to these projects will be the responsibility of the Gridiron Club. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Your support is appreciated. I might digress a little bit from the letter. Got together with our Gridiron Committee, and several of them have been on that practice football field. It's really deteriorated. It just presents a bad picture. When you walk onto the practice football field, graduation is coming up. You don't see the field, but you see the shed, and it's really deteriorating. We wanted to do something special. We want to light a fire in the community that we're going to need some help up there. This may be the start of it. We're going to need topsoil. We're going to need fertilizer for the field, because I passed along some information and also pictures. 100 yards right down the middle of it. It's all deteriorated. And the seniors on the football team came up to me and said, "Would you please do something?" Now we have a program at the middle school where the middle school kids go out there and play football. And if you're a parent or you're a player, you'd really have a problem with that field. And I'm not criticizing anything. The last time any work was done on that field, I met with Ramco last week. They did work on the field, but that's over 10 years ago. With the use and all the traffic that we get on that field, it does need help. This is a start. And I've talked to several people out there. Maybe this will be the fire that'll ignite something. But we have to do something for our kids. We want them to participate in athletics. We want them to participate in extracurricular activities. Get them out there on the field and get them active. That's our intent. And this is what we're bequeathing to the school committee tonight, looking for your acceptance.
Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, let me just take a moment to, on behalf of the committee and personally, thank you for not only the years that you worked and got paid in this district, but I know that you have spent many, many years as a coach and a fan and an announcer and play-by-play guy and lining the fields. And I've said this to you privately. I hope I don't embarrass you. The amazing job that you and your wife have done with your two wonderful grandsons who will be graduating soon. So again, thank you for all your efforts, and it's great to see Mrs. Spitz has stepped up, and I'm sure that she was well into volunteering and had no pressure on her whatsoever.
I made a commitment to be on the sidelines to help her out.
That's great. Well, again, thank you for all your help and for especially the Gridiron stepping up and helping out the kids in the district. And with that being said, I will entertain a motion to accept the donation from the Gridiron Club with an approximate value of $2,000.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes.
I interrupt through the chair. The value of the gift is $1,000.
1,000.
Yes.
Okay. With the amended motion of an approximate value of $1,000. Were there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and you can come anytime to our meetings. You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One comment, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just want to show my appreciation to the staff, the teachers, superintendent, business managers. My boys are graduating. I don't want to get emotional, but it's been a great experience at Bartlett High School. Couldn't have made a better choice. This place is fantastic, it runs very well, and you've got a committee that's really committed to getting this place on the right track and keeping it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will continue with the original order of the agenda and jump back to the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Gogan.
Good evening. How is everyone?
We're good.
In
Okay.
Webster, kindness matters. Every time. I have a short report, I hope. I have a bunch of updates to give you. As you know, we've been working with lots of community members to strengthen our partnership, and we're very pleased that Head Start has moved into Webster over on School Street. We held our first meeting with them to begin our collaborative talks about how we were going to collaborate and strengthen our partnership. Mrs. Barris, myself, and Jill Chapdelaine went over and met with Kathy Doe, and we started to talk a little bit about streamlining kindergarten registration, planning a step-up day for students coming from Head Start to kindergarten, and time for our teachers and their teachers to collaborate. There was equal excitement on both sides for this partnership, so there'll be some great things that come from that, and I will keep you apprised of that. I'd also like to let you know that I did attend the Commissioner of Education's conference, and it was called Kairos, Mapping Our Way to the Future. The theme of the very large conference, which was held at UMass Amherst, was to have educators start to think about educating kids and making sure that there's a piece of fun and performance tasks related to learning. I have to give our Commissioner of Education some kudos for bringing lots of student performers to this presentation and having lots of hands-on activities for the adults to participate in. It was very good, a very good conference. It was packed, and I was very lucky to get in. A lot of people could not get in, and they tried to stream what was happening for other educators to see. I do want to let you know that I, along with the curriculum directors, have been working with the principals on their school improvement plans. They are not ready for showing yet, and they're not ready for showing because we really started to dig in a little deeper to make sure that the school improvement plans align to the turnaround plans, and the process has kind of been healthy. It's tightened up the systems organization to know what's going on at each of the schools. But before we bring them forward, I have requested that the principals continue to work on them, but share them with their staff and their school councils before they come back here for approval. So I wanted to give you that update. I would also like to let you know on March 21st, Chairman Hurton and myself met with Town Administrator Doug and the accountant and selectmen and finance committee to discuss the budget. And at this point, the town has allocated a 3% increase for the school, which represents a 1.2 decrease from the voted on budget that we have brought before you. We are certainly hoping that the efforts to challenge the existing foundation budget impacts the governor's final budget, and we don't get decreased that much. I have a responsibility to advocate for the schools and to move the schools forward, so I wanted to give you that update. Personnel updates. I would like to let you know that Elizabeth Isaac, a para at Bartlett High School, has resigned, and we have hired Catherine Faulkner as a .8 ABA at Park Ave Elementary School. She'll start April 8th. We have hired Christine Nelson as a long-term guidance counselor over at the Webster Middle School. She started last Thursday. And we've also hired Desiree Monez as an administrative assistant sub in the superintendent's office. Under other updates, I'd like to let you know that we're quite pleased about this. We are in the process of hiring a part-time school community liaison funded through Title I grants. This is a position that we are going to put in place as soon as possible. Someone working 5 to 10 hours to do specific outreach to our second language learner families to help bridge that gap that we have. And we're hiring Margarita Nieves. She is our chairperson of our ELL parent advisory group, and she also works at Head Start. So she does this type of work for Head Start, which is a really wonderful bridge to have her doing some of our initial outreach to families. I would also like to let you know that we reposted the long-term substitute for the dean at the Webster Middle School and Bartlett High School. In my conversations with my superintendent colleagues, I did put out some feelers that we were looking for a long-term sub, and lo and behold, I was introduced to Rick Porter, who is a retired administrator who happened to work here at Bartlett in 2013. I met with Rick Porter today. He's very interested in filling in for our long-term substitute dean in this position, and I introduced him to Michael Zajac, Peter Cushing, and Becky Zanicki, and took him down to the high school. And you know, Cheers, when somebody calls Norm, it felt like that because everybody knew who he was. So he seems to be a good match. He has not started yet. We're hoping that he starts on Thursday. I do want to also let you know that the executive director at the Central Mass Collaborative has officially resigned. So the superintendent in Worcester and myself are in the process of hiring a new executive director for the collaborative. As you know, if you read my newsletters, the MCAS season is upon us. The dates were included in the letters, and the principals, I'm sure, are keeping parents informed. A shout out to all of our families that this assessment period is a period where we don't want kids to be stressed out, but we do want to send them the message to try their best. A good night's sleep and having a healthy breakfast and coming to school on time is crucial during these MCAS testing months. We're busy. I guess I didn't tell the truth. My report is a little longer than I anticipated. We're really looking forward to improving our program of studies at the high school. We're looking at pathways. I know that we have been telling you that we're examining the data around the Nichols Honors and the Strong program and the Quest program, and we don't have that data yet for you. We're in the process. But part of our process that's going on is to look at how we are opening up different pathways to make sure that there are equitable opportunities for all students, regardless of their grades, that they have access to different opportunities. So this week, Mrs. Zernecki and myself went up to Bay Path to start to talk about what kind of vocational programming could we potentially bring to Bartlett High School. And we're doing this twofold. One, we need to really have a clear vision of what we are going to be putting in our educational questionnaire for the building project. And the building project, SOI, had radio and television, early childhood, and biotech, but we need to have specifics. We had a great meeting. We found out about a lot of different innovative pathways that we can create. So we're starting to brainstorm about different opportunities for our kids. I would like to give a thank you, a public thank you to the superintendent up at Bay Path and his curriculum director for taking the time to meet with us. They were very helpful. We need their support and approval. We cannot offer a vocational program that they offer, but if there's a program that they're not offering and we want to offer it, we can. It looks like the best bet for us is to not go with seeking additional Chapter 74 funds. Our best bet and cleanest way is to start with innovative pathways, which require Department of Education approval. So we will keep you apprised of that. Tonight, as we're sitting here, there are well over 100 parents at Park Avenue Elementary School, there's an MCAS informational evening and a dinner. I just was tweeting that right before the meeting. It's a full house. I want to give a shout out to our administrators, Robin Parmley and Patty Mackay, and Susan Ricard and Jill Recchia for arranging free food for families with Mexicali, and of course Mexicali that they always donate to us. Thank you for that. We, as you know, continue to focus on supporting our teachers with professional development related to our new programming. Once again, our curriculum director, Jill Chapdelaine, arranged for another Saturday PD, which was held at Park Avenue Elementary School. We collected positive feedback. I shared that in my newsletter. Teachers are grateful for that time, and that was another full house. Tomorrow night, we are having our ELL Parent Advisory Dinner. Instead of having an afternoon meeting, we're going to shift it to the dinner time to see if more parents can come. So the dinner, it will start at 5:30, and that is at North Village for our ELL Parent Advisory meeting. Notifications went home to all our second language learners last Friday and in their backpacks. So we're hoping that we see a large crowd. Do want to give a shout out to the Webster Middle School National Junior Honor Society. They are collecting donations for cradles to crayons. If anyone has any donations they're collecting this week, please contact Laura Foley over at the middle school. I know there's boxes at each of the schools, and we are teaching our kids how to give back to others. I don't know why I said it was short. I want to give a public thank you to Gina Nueves and Donna Hurton for freely taking on the responsibilities to organize the after prom event with the END grant that we received from the district attorney's office. They are sort of spearheading the leadership on that and are excited to do so. I want to give a congratulations to our Park Avenue cafeteria staff and our food service director and our teachers for their work on the Breakfast Before the Bell program. Park Avenue will be recognized again this year at the State House from the EOS Foundation on May 9th. That's huge. I want to also have anyone who is listening know that our Webster Adult Education Program is offering a manufacturing certificates and high school and college degrees. Please contact Leslie Baker at 508-949-8282 or stop by the offices, which are located at Bartlett High School. And our partnership with Mafre continues to expand, and I'm very excited about that. Mafre right now is doing a collection of prom dresses for our high school students. They will have them there before the prom, and so students can have a wide selection to choose from. I have been working with Linda Johnson and have been able to secure the In Control program to come to Bartlett High School. The In Control program is a driver safety program. They will be dropping off a smashed car on April 29th. With that smashed car, we're going to be bringing in some educational assemblies. I've worked with Barbara from Boston Children's Hospital. She's working on hopefully a guest speaker to speak to the students about safety and driving. And I know that the high school has some other events planned on that prom week. I won't steal that thunder, but we're pleased to have that opportunity with Mafre. We are, believe it or not, today scheduling with Mafre and Boston Children's Hospital next year's events for October and November already to secure that one-on-one that Barbara is giving us in the classrooms and the assemblies. And so I'm pleased about that. I want you to make sure that you know about the spring concert, grade 1 spring concert this Friday, March 29th at 1:30. Round and round the seasons go. And the show will start at 1:30. And I'd like you to put that on your calendars. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Just to recap the budget meeting that occurred, as Mrs. Gogan mentioned, Just for those that might be watching, it wasn't the entire committees. It was just one or two representatives from each, so there was no violation of the open meeting law. We've done this in the past. And as Mrs. Gogan alluded, when the town administrator made his projections last year, it appeared at that time that there may be potential significant cuts that we might have to make. Fortunately, for a lot of different reasons, which he went through, increase in revenue, ability to save, hopefully with the health insurance, somewhat controversial, but some additional revenue from some potential host agreements with the marijuana industry, that potential budget deficit was not as severe as he thought. That's the good news. The bad news is we, and I agree with Mrs. Gogan, had voted on a 4.2% budget, which wasn't a pie in the sky, everything we need. It was really what we really, really need. His project, at this point, he has submitted to the selectmen that the town could only afford 3%. So as we discussed at that meeting, there's obviously more work to be done. We do have the tri-committee meeting on April 8th, I believe, or is that up, is that not?
There's not a quorum from your board
Okay.
for that meeting.
So that date
Is
will.
that correct?
So that date will have to be rescheduled?
Yes.
Okay. But regardless, obviously, there will be additional conversations publicly. Finance Committee will have a public hearing. We'll have a public hearing. At some point, hopefully, we'll have this tri-committee meeting. I suspect, and, as I mentioned at the meeting, the only hope we have at this point, and you mentioned it, Mrs. Gogan, is through one of the bills that are proposed would be additional direct education funding based on the recommendations of the Foundation Budget Review Commission. We can't base the town meeting budget off of that. So even if cuts need to be made at this point, we are hopeful that many of those can be built back in by July 1st, which is the beginning of the fiscal year. So more to be determined on the budget discussion.
Absolutely. It's still very active, and I do expect, and I'm hopeful, as new numbers come out from the state, that it'll be favorable for the school department. And then I think we need to have further discussions with the town as where that additional funding goes. And we need to agree upon that. That's discussions that we need to have. We are looking to have our public hearing on April 23rd, so 26th, I believe, is the second Tuesday.
It's the same night as the school committee.
Meeting at our second one in April, so I'll be advertising that in the next couple of weeks. I'm putting it in the local papers for people to make them aware of the public hearing for us. But there's still time. There's still time. There's still a lot to be done in the next month or two coming out from the state.
And I'm assuming you're going to coordinate with Doug and the finance folks and try to come up with a second mutual potential date.
That date, and we also need a date for our school budget meeting.
Right.
So we are trying to get those two dates locked down, and we will.
Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I really do have a short report tonight, unlike Ms. Gogan.
All right, let's see. This is the second time around.
I know. In your packets, you should have had a copy of the single audit report from Roselli and Clark. Single audits are conducted as part of the town audit. We usually have to do anything over 500,000. So typically it alternates years. You might have Title I and school lunch in one year, and then special ed cluster in the following year. The audit went very well. They were pleased. There was only one minor finding. It's on page 10. When you are paid out of a federal grant, there is a time and certification sheet that needs to be filled out and signed off just so the employee knows they're being paid out of a grant. Our practice in the district has been that typically halfway through the year, we send them out to get signed and returned back, and then we do it again towards the end of the year. As you know, the turnover in staff, especially we pay a lot of paraprofessionals out of those grants. So sometimes they come and they leave and we haven't gotten the sheet back. So I think it's just a matter of changing our HR process and getting these up front versus getting them after the fact. Making sure at the beginning of the school year, we're getting all the staff that's paid out of him. And then as new staff come on board, or there's a turnover in staff, just having them filled out right then and there. That's something we know in our office, and it's just a matter of communication. I've worked with special ed already, so it wasn't anything major. They were pleased with the reports. And then on page 11, if you look, they just give a summary of prior year audits. We had a minor one with our food service and the verification. Our numbers are so low because we don't certify free and reduced applications anymore. The only ones that we do are for the parochial schools because they are not part of CEP. Our percentages were so low that we didn't think we had to verify because it was less than one, but you still have to do one. So that's been corrected. There were no findings this year for any of that. So everything looks good. Special ed did a great job. Maria does a nice job, and Kathy does a nice job overlooking special ed grant and taking care of things. And we'll remedy the time and effort moving forward. And that concludes my report, unless you have any other questions.
Any questions or comments from the committee? I was surprised, is this all federal monies that we receive for a fiscal year?
No.
It's not. So we receive more than
Oh, wait a
3.7
minute.
million.
You're looking at their,
Page 7.
no, that's just what they audited. Special ed and Title I, but we do have other, we have Title III, Title IV. Our food lunch is federal money.
So even I was going to be surprised at 3.7 million above and beyond the LEA that we receive, but it's even more than that in total.
Yeah, because I don't see,
Title IV.
yeah, I don't see Title
Title III.
IV. I see Title III here, but I don't see food service, which is
Early childhood.
at about another 800,000, I think, in revenue from food service.
So fair to say probably close to 5 million without an exact number might be the total federal grants we receive.
Well, actually, food service is on the page 6. If you look on the top left, page 6.
Oh, so it is built into the
Yeah,
3.7?
so it is.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just surprised, like I said, we don't usually see the total of the federal grants, and pleasantly
This has
surprised.
some of town in it. This is town and school. It's not just school,
Oh,
because this is part of the town audit.
right. Most of it is school though, right?
Most of the large federal grants are school, yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Principal Report, Peter Cushing, Bartlett High School. Good evening, Dr. Cushing.
Good evening. I'd like to ask Ms. Ernicki to come forward as well
Absolutely, we have enough chairs tonight.
so she can assist. The first thing I'd like to start with is the presentation that I know that many of you were a part of. Superintendent Gogan was on our panel, as well as the district attorney, Early, Chief Shaw, Chief Millyard, and our resident assistant from Nichols College for the If They Had Known, the story of Clay Soper and his unfortunate end of life through the combination of prescription medication and alcohol. The students were, what was very nice about the night was how well attended it was. The district attorney had shared in another district that he had been in that there were more people on the panel than there were in the audience. So I really think it's a testament to the amount of Bartlett and middle school families who came out that evening. While it was connected with our sports night, I still think that we had great attendance regardless. The other thing is that we showed it during the school day last week, last Friday, and we had an 8th and 9th grade showing. Chief Millyard came back, as well as Lieutenant Wentworth of the Webster Police, to answer some questions and provide information. We then also had a showing in the afternoon prior to our MCAS presentation for our sophomores, where we showed the movie again to our juniors, sophomores, and seniors. I think that the stunning thing for me was some of the questions that students were asking around marijuana in regards to, is it a gateway drug, is it not a gateway drug? And given the experts in the room with Chief Millyard and Lieutenant Wentworth, I would say I was surprised, but not really, at their lack of willingness to listen to what the experts were telling them. And I think we have to be ever vigilant on this front with our students. So the presentations went very well, though. There were many teary eyes in all the presentations. I think when people realize that nobody intended to do anything dramatic and it cost someone their life. The show choir update has already been done for you, so I'll substitute that with the March 1st NEASC report. Our 5-year NEASC report was provided to the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. I want to thank Ms. Zernicke as well as Mr. Constantine for their assistance with that. The report was submitted on time and with clear communication with NEASC. And Fran Kennedy at NEASC, who's our connection with the Commission on Public Schools. So that has been submitted. Want to thank the superintendent for the $5,000 grant through the district attorney. I think that's going to be a really tremendous new tradition that starts for us. Really looking at a way to protect students after events such as prom, such as graduation, for those evening times when bad decisions can have drastic consequences. So I think those are really, that's a really great thing. It came through from District Attorney Early's office. Superintendent Gogan tweeted out a great picture of us receiving the check that was immediately handed over to the business office. I don't think the students realized what they were necessarily holding in their hands at the time. On April 30th, we have the District Attorney's Office coming back to do a texting and driving presentation. For those of you who don't know, this is very timely as the governor is really pushing for troopers and other law enforcement to be able to pull people over on site for simply having a cell phone in your hands or not wearing your seatbelt. That's a legislation that he put forward yesterday. So that's something that's pretty important. Just checking my notes here. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Zernicke right now to discuss Nichols Honors Academy, the test selection, that process, where we stand with it, and moving forward.
No, you just have to, thank you.
Just like that. Okay, here we go. So at this point, we have all of our kids that did apply. We have about 32 kids that applied for the Nichols Honors Academy for next year from 8th grade. They all took the test last week. They took them on Saturday and on Wednesday night. And at this point, we have all of those. I handed them over to the teachers to correct. They're in the process of correcting them, almost finished. Once that's done, we will be getting together to look over all of their MCAS scores, all of their local grades, their tests, their teacher recommendations, and then we start kind of organizing, looking at the data to make selections for next year. So we're in that process, and hopefully we'll have the selections done by May, beginning of May.
Would also like to provide you an update on our turnaround plan work, and would like Ms. Zernicke to be able to jump in as well. We've been doing at Bartlett really focused and targeted work throughout this year. We've been really giving teachers the time and opportunity to participate in various protocols, to participate in opportunities for their voice to be heard, to discuss the issues that we're facing as a school, and to come up with solutions to really fix and move forward to put a better product and build a better Bartlett. As part of that, we're going to be having a stakeholder group meeting. I put out an email today to many different people, but I want to see that opportunity. I invited parents, invited members of committees, invited members of select boards, all these different people, business leaders, but pastoral leaders. Really want to, though, see that as an opportunity to expand the group, because we need to hear as part of this turnaround plan what our stakeholders expect from us, and also want to see a way that our stakeholders can help us to build a better Bartlett. We need to be the pride of Webster as a school district and as a high school, to really make sure that we are putting the absolute best product on the table for students, and to make sure that we are representing our students to the best way possible. So if you were one to receive the email, it was a select group to start with of, I think, about 14 or 15 people, but please forward that out. That is by all means to get as many people in as possible for the first meeting, which is next Thursday, April 4th at 5 p.m. I will be submitting to the town clerk to make sure that it needs to be an open meeting. It's posted regardless. We'll be doing that tomorrow, but we need to get as many people around the table as possible. We have so many good ideas coming out of this turnaround process, coming out of the improvement work that the superintendent mentioned. We met tonight with our school site council on that, and the parent feedback was extremely positive. They found it to be a robust, comprehensive plan. They offered some suggestions. But we also had today our department meetings at Bartlett where teachers were providing feedback on the turnaround plan writing thus far. And the great work around, the great opportunity around Google Docs is that all of those comments were put in, and so that we're going to have opportunities to have feedback in. I'd like for Becky, for you to jump in and just add anything you'd like to the turnaround work that's been going on thus far.
What I will say is that it's very eye-opening and at the same time validating going through this process. So I've been here for quite a while, and we've been doing many different things over the course of time. And when we got the SIOR report back, which is one of the first steps that you do to do turnaround, one of the things that came out of it was student discourse, that we really need more student discourse in our classrooms. And that's something we've been talking about for a couple years now. So it's validating to get that piece back, but at the same time, okay, so now how do we tackle that? What are the best ways to really get down and dirty with the kids to get more student discourse, not only between students, but with teacher and student, and how to make that better. So it's been a really interesting process, and a lot of different ideas are coming out of it, and some validating points. So I think it's been a good process. And getting the teachers on board and the teacher voice and that whole piece, I think, is very important to move it forward. We need the teacher buy-in. They need to understand what needs to get better, and they need to have a voice in what strategies we use. The important piece is have the teacher collaboration moving forward. So if we do any kind of PD, having that continue within like teacher collaboration groups and looking at lessons and lesson studies, and then going back and teaching and coming back and having discussions about what worked, what didn't work, and what more can we do for our kids. So it's a really good process, and I'm looking forward to the whole plan being finished by April 30th.
The other big point too is the superintendent had a district-wide instructional leadership team meeting at Park Avenue back in October, I believe. And a state observer at that point remarked at how quiet the Bartlett ILT team was and how reserved they were and weren't really talking. Recently, she's been to 2 of our meetings, and that same state observer has commented on the buy-in that teachers have, the robust conversations that people are having, and their investment in the process, and really trying to figure out those problems that we are facing, problems of practice, and figuring out ways to fix them. And people are working on Saturday mornings. People are working 2-3 hours after school. We're coming up against deadlines of time that a meeting is supposed to end at 3:30 or 4:15, and people are continuing to work past those times. The staff are buying into the changes. There are legitimate conversations around how do we look at our schedule? How do we change our schedule without making drastic changes right now, but making substantial changes that alter how we are offering time for collaboration, time for kids to be getting more out of what they're getting. And then to set up a committee to really look at how can we drastically change the schedule. But how can we leverage points now, all right, so that we're not waiting and we're doing things now in the immediacy to start next year. The other big thing is the reason why these stakeholder groups are so fundamentally important is I was speaking with a friend of mine, a colleague who's helped to turn around a Boston public school, and she was talking to me about how partnering with a college got them a debate coach to come in and actually coach their teachers around discourse and how to get their teachers to think about better ways to question, better ways to engage their students by bringing that debate coach in. So I'm hoping our partnership with Nichols might leverage that, something along those lines, or a community member who has that experience that can help us to do these things with low cost but high leverage. So that's where we are with our turnaround plan right now. I can't tell you how important I think that stakeholder group is, especially as we move into the school building project. I see that stakeholder group as being something that becomes a fixture to meet quarterly, moving into next year and years going forward. Have a few meetings before the end of this year to really focus on the turnaround plan, but then to really meet quarterly and for us to know what the community of Webster expects from their high school. Yes, we know they expect greatness and great academics, but what more can we do? And so finally, the sports update. Thankfully, teams are out on the fields. So barring an April 1st blizzard, as we've had, I think twice in the past 10 years, we should be moving forward well with our sports. All coaches have been hired. The teams are all full, and we are bringing some new students who have entered our school onto teams as we can convince them to do so. So therein lies my update. Let me just make sure. Anything further? All right.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Dr. Cushing, you mentioned that at the beginning of these groups, the instructional leadership team was sort of reserved. What do you think caused them to be more participative as time went on?
I can say that it's focused protocols. So for instance, this past week, we did a protocol on Back to the Future, it's called. So basically, we had to talk about, okay, so what do we want our school to look like? What are the elements of a really progressive, good Bartlett? What would it really look like? So we kind of talked about all the characteristics. And then we talked about, okay, so where are we now? So what does our school look like now? And then we talked about the bridge, how are we going to get there? And that opened up a huge conversation, and everybody was very open and very honest, which was nice to see. But it really, I think everybody was feeling pretty good about that. But I think the protocols help people open up. And we weren't really protocol heavy before. We would just kind of open up and start talking. But I think within protocols, people feel safe to have those conversations.
The protocols we use, many educators know about them, but it's the National School Reform Council. Yes, National School Reform Council, and they have a protocol for anything that you want to do. I mean, literally, I would say thousands of protocols. Sometimes it's overwhelming to look. I would say the other thing too is when we're talking about discourse and how we want to pose questions to students, it's how are we posing questions to adults? So one of the critical questions that we asked at the very beginning was, what does a Bartlett student look like when they leave here? And how are we preparing them for college, career, and initially it was crisis, right? Because if you think about just the world today, and as crisis pops up, we've changed that to citizenship. But so basically, what does a Bartlett High School graduate look like when they leave Bartlett, and how well are they prepared for those post-secondary challenges of college, career, and citizenship? And so that's just one example of a question, but making sure that we're asking those questions that are going to get people to think deeply. Also doing really focused root cause analyses. I don't know that those have been done before as in depth as we've been doing them, but we've been doing the work as an ILT, and then we bring it to the whole faculty. So we do it in a microcosm, and then we offer opportunities for distributive leadership for members of the instructional leadership team to be leading the opportunities within the larger faculty meetings. And so it's not just myself or Ms. Zernicke, it's a team approach really trying to rebuild our school.
I also think there's a sense of urgency at this point, and I think everybody's feeling it, that we do need to change and something needs to happen, and I think all the teachers want to be heard on that. So I think that helps as much as,
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? First of all, I can't believe it's been 5 years since the NEASC visit. That was the 5-year mid-report you had to submit?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this the 5th or 6th group of Nichols kids?
This is 6.
Well, this new one will be 6.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
The
and
8th
it-
grade coming in will be 6,
And it's been
yes.
6 years of Nichols, which is.
Right.
mind-boggling.
Last year, we graduated the first group, the first cohort was last year.
Would you mind sharing with me the list of people you reached out to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Just
forward you the
because I
email.
may
Yep.
know some of them, and if I do well enough, I'll reach out to them
I'll forward the
personally.
email to everybody. It was more just trying to find selective, but and for no other reason than just trying not to overwhelm everybody. But I do want to try to get as many people there as possible to have voice, to really have an investment. What I want people to do is to buy and hold on Bartlett, all right? To see the greatness that's going to be coming, and to buy and hold and to believe in the greatness that we can do together. We have a great central office really connecting, providing opportunities through CPM math, helping people to do pilots of different curriculums, various things that are really going to help us to move forward. And with the sense of urgency, the buy-in from our staff that I'm really seeing, all right, and people having conversations with those who aren't bought in is also starting to happen, which is really important and is really fundamentally critical to a turnaround process.
If you happen to send it to all of us, just for open meeting rules, you just have to CC Ms. Glennon, that's all.
Okay?
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. And Ms. Zernicki, you're welcome, as I said to Mr. Kunkel, anytime to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with the agenda, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session according to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection A, to discuss strategy for negotiations with non-union personnel. In this case, it has to do with the cafeteria workers' potential contract agreement.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, and I don't believe I mentioned we will be coming back into open session. I don't suspect this one will be too long, so for those that are watching, it shouldn't be that long. So we will enter into executive session and then return back into open session to continue with our agenda. After exiting executive session, we have now returned back to open session. The next item on the agenda is to vote on the cafeteria workers contractual agreement. Mrs. Gilgan. Any questions or comments?
Do you want me to say that again?
Sure.
I would like you to rewind. I would like to recommend that you approve an agreement with the cafeteria workers from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021.
Any
Yes.
questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to say that the cafeteria workers do a great job, so we thank them for their service.
That we do. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the presented cafeteria workers contractual agreement.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is review, transfer, signing of bills, payroll, and vouchers. We do have a transfer request from the middle school. I will entertain a motion to transfer $6,852.08 from the middle school Webster 5-cent savings account to the middle school Webster 5-cent checking account.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. And Laurie, could you just please put in the minutes that I abstained from signing the warrant? And for the record, there is a potential payment and reimbursement to my wife for employee-related expenses, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is approved by the principal and the business manager. Is that the correct protocol? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you very much, everybody.